take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Welcome to Life in Red.
And we're back. Finally, episode 12 of the Life in Red podcast with my good friend Madison. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
There you go, right up on the mic there.
Okay, you mean I can't just yell here?
Oh no, that's perfect right there.
I do everywhere else in my life.
Yeah, you're sounding a little. The vocal cords sound a little tired.
A bit used.
Yeah,
you could say.
We haven't seen each other in 3 months.
September.
Early September. What have you been up to?
All the things.
Because you did lots of things.
I did.
And then you just text me one day and you're like, I'm back and dying.
Hello,
and
friend.
I'm like, oh.
Let's do stuff.
What were you away for? I can't remember. No, I do remember. But I want you to tell me.
So I was away with the First Shift, which is a fun introductory program for young kids that have never been exposed to hockey before. They sign up. We get them actually fit for hockey equipment. So that's what our job is. We get them all fit for their gear. They get sessions on the ice and then hopefully end up joining into minor hockey.
Interesting. So is this for like underprivileged kids, people who maybe just be wanting to interested in the game first before they sign up for a year? Like what's the crowd like? Mainly
what we try and get across is more that it's just for people that haven't had the chance to try hockey, whether you're underprivileged or not. That doesn't really matter to us. It's just for people that haven't had the chance to play hockey before, for whatever reason that is. It makes it a really short commitment, right? It's only 6 weeks. A lot of people are afraid to try hockey because it's a full year, which is like 8 to 10 months. The equipment can be expensive. They don't really know how it all works. So it takes a lot of the fear away. It makes it really fun and really safe. So
interesting. So do you do, because you said equipment, so do you run the sessions as well? Like, are you on the ice with them? Or is that someone's, like, that's a totally different thing?
Yeah. So basically the way that it sort of works is, so I work for Bauer Hockey, which is the equipment provider, and our main partners are Canadian Tire and Hockey Canada. And then what we do, so what our teams, we have 5 field teams out on the road. What our job is we travel around city to city, communities, and we actually fit kids with the gear. And they're hooked up with the associations in their community already.
Oh, okay.
So the community coaches actually run the sessions.
Interesting. Okay. And do you like that?
I love it. It's so much fun. There's a reason I keep going back.
Yeah, you get to travel a lot, which
I do. I've pretty much seen everything west of Ottawa, which is pretty unbelievable. And I've basically gotten paid to do it. Yeah. So I can't complain. They take very good care of us. They make sure, we have places to stay. We have a food allowance, that kind of stuff. They'll suggest stuff in like certain areas we're in, like in Vancouver and stuff. Sometimes they'll try and hook us up with NHL tickets if they can.
Yeah, you met the Red Wings. I remember that.
We did. That was a different event, but that was really fun too. It's unbelievable. It's such a cool program. I've been obviously involved in hockey for so long, and that's with like teaching and kids that are already involved. So seeing it from the other side, as we like to say, is really exciting because you forget how new some of these people are. A lot of things that are second nature to people like you and me who know hockey inside and out. These people are like, okay, but what's a neck guard for? Right? Stuff like that where you're like, oh, that's right. Right? A lot of people are really new to it. They do a lot of research, and they have been since the program started about 6 years ago. And pretty much the stats are only like 1 in 10 kids play minor hockey right now.
That's so expensive.
Yeah.
I know that's one of the biggest things.
Yeah, that is one of the biggest things, but a lot of them add up together too. So it's really expensive for something that potentially could take a long time. Yeah. Like I said, like September to March, April, May, depending on how long seasons are. It's very time consuming because there's travel involved. Ice time's expensive. So it can be a very expensive sport, but we're trying to kind of take that stigma away from it.
Like, it also depends how high you get. I mean, minor hockey, it's expensive, but like it's
compared
nothing
to
like
the kid that's going to play AAA and his parents are going to buy him top of the line gear every year. Very different price point.
I wish that. Yeah. I remember when I first bought my first set of pads on my own that wasn't for my parents, and I cried. Yeah. I bought the cheap one, and it was like $700.
Yeah, you're like, I'm gonna get the cheap one. You're like, oh, cheap is still very expensive.
And then even the sticks alone, like $200-$300, and then you just
that's
see them break.
That's top of the line, though.
Is it?
Yeah, you can get sticks for like $100.
Yeah, my first one was a wood stick from Canadian Tire.
Yep.
I didn't even.
It's the place to be.
Yeah.
Canada Store. For our partner.
How'd you fall into something like that? Like, do they actually like put it up on just like as a regular job posting, or is there like kind of specialty?
Well, the way that I found it, I actually saw it on a post on Facebook that Hockey Canada shared.
Oh.
And then there was a link to a like hiring agency that we had to apply through. And I think the brand title was like brand ambassador for Bauer, I guess is what they say it. But essentially our titles are either fit manager or field manager or a fit expert. And basically the only difference is that the field manager does a lot of the background stuff. So that's what I do. We just send all the emails. We take care of all the shipments and things like that. We're sort of like the point of contact for all of the communities. But once we kind of get to the event, we all pretty much have the same job.
So if someone wanted to, was thinking about starting hockey or putting their kids in hockey, like, what would you say to them to kind of get them pumped up or, introduce them to this program? Like, how do they kind of find it? Like, what's the navigation of working this through?
Well, so our program, we have our own website. It's www.firstshift.ca. I'm actually leaving again in 2 weeks to go back out on tour.
You didn't even tell me that.
Sorry, January 7th. See you never.
When were you going this time?
I'm staying in Ontario.
Oh.
This year. I mean, I've gotten to go out west the last 2 times, so I don't mind staying closer to home. A little bit less travel time. Like last time I was out west in the winter, we drove from Winnipeg to Vancouver. So less events, more travel, lots of cool places to see, but depends on what you want, right? More events generally means more money, which isn't a bad thing either. So yeah, you can go onto our website, you can put in your postal code and it'll tell you the event closest to you. We do have one in Ottawa on January 29th. I don't know if it's full, but we're always in Ottawa every year. But otherwise, you can actually go to Hockey Canada and you can, again, look up your postal code and it'll tell you the closest hockey branch to you. So like for us, our governing body in Ottawa is, at least for boys, it's Hockey of Eastern Ontario. For girls hockey, it should still be ODWHA, which is Ottawa District Women's Hockey Association. And then they'll have all the teams within the city, which depending on where you live, it works out.
I mean, people who kind of grew up around hockey might know this kind of stuff, but I feel that like new families, maybe they immigrated to Canada or, their first generation trying to start hockey. How do you get that message out? Because not everyone is just going to know, I'm just going to go check the website. Like, does the association or the district help? Like, do you fly? Like, I'm just trying to wrap my head around, like, how people get this information and the start to actually, like,
are you talking about, like, First Shift or hockey in general?
I guess first. So they're different. They're mostly different then,
yes.
Right?
Yeah. So First Shift, sort of the chain of command and sort of how it works from, like, our perspective on the backhand is Bauer basically and Hockey Canada open association registration in, I believe it's February or March. So associations have to apply to host an event.
Okay.
And then once we give them the go-ahead, we open registration to families. I believe the date is June 1st. It does switch around every year depending on how many programs we offer. Like, we've been growing so much. Even since I started the first year I was on tour, I think we had about 110, 115 events. Last year we had 150, and this year we're up over 200.
Oh, wow.
So
as long as associations keep applying, I mean, there's not really a shortage.
Yeah,
right? You
like
just need them to apply so it can happen.
Very rarely will we say no unless we think that they're not going to be able to get enough. Like, as much as we would love to go to every single community, if we're only going to get 2 or 3 kids, logistically, it's tough. It's expensive. You do want to get there as much as you can, but we try and work stuff out. So a lot of the times, so like for us, we know that like when you play minor hockey, it's done by district where you live and you have to play within your area. For things like this, you don't need to be in the area. You can apply from like an out-of-towner, and then that association that is running the event will get you in touch with whoever's in your community.
Gotcha.
Through the boards and things like that they have.
So you do this, and I know you also coach too. Like, you work for the Ottawa Senators programs. What made you one, what made you fall in love with hockey, and then what made you want to transition into this kind of coaching, getting new people involved in hockey type role, where I guess more of a leadership role model role?
Yeah. I've played hockey pretty much my entire life. My dad played, my brother played. And when I was young, I pretty much wanted to do whatever my brother was doing, which is why I played hockey and baseball. And then eventually ended up dropping out of baseball. I was better at hockey. There was more opportunity there. Anyways, but I don't think, like, as a kid, you never really think about, like, falling in love with the game, right? You're like, oh, I enjoy it. For me, I'm like, well, I guess I'm pretty good at it. Making friends seems like a cool thing to keep doing. And the opportunity was there for me, which I was really lucky for. But it wasn't really, and then I kind of, not that I fell out of love with it, but the older you get and the more competitive it gets, the more stressful it is. And some days it's hard to still love the game because I would rather stay home and stay in bed or go out with my friends on a Friday night, but I had practice every Friday at 7 p.m. in Kempville for grades 9, 10, 11, and 12. So it's tough. It has been a love-hate relationship at times, but I've gotten so much out of it. So it's more almost like a retrospective thing, being like, I got so much out of the game. I have friends, like I have girls that I'm still friends with that I started playing with when I was like 6 or 7, that I'm still friends with now. Like my parents have friends from hockey that they're like really close with now that they probably wouldn't have met otherwise. And it's just, I don't know, it's always been such a fun environment. I have so many friends from different areas of the game. So now through like working at the Sens and things like that and coaching, but just the community in general, I think it's a really fantastic place to be. There's a lot of connection and a lot of community, and we try and help each other as much as we can. So things like the Humboldt bus crash, right? Like that was a really big community thing. And yes, it's like a news thing, but like the hockey community.
Yeah. Same with the Do It for Darren type thing.
Like
when there's tragedy, like we all become family almost.
Yeah, and you sort of forget about all the other like small nitty things that would normally on a regular day you wouldn't really think about.
Yeah.
But sort of in situations like that, you sort of turn your eyes to what's more important, right?
Yeah.
We all play the game because we love the game. We're all involved with it because we love it and we want to give back. So I think that's the big thing that's kept me in it. Obviously, I love it. I don't like to say I'm very good at it, but I have a knack for it, I guess. I've always enjoyed teaching, and I love working with kids, which is where camps kind of came in.
Always surprises me as well.
Some days it's still a surprise to me. I'm out and I'm like, ugh, kids. And then I'm like, wait a minute. That's all I do is work with kids. So yeah, love-hate relationship that way too. But it's just, I don't know. There's so many opportunities. There's so many fantastic, amazing people that I've met through the game. So
since you started to where you are now, especially being in the women's game, do you see a growth in it? Do you see progression? Like, do you feel it's at a point where, you know, women's hockey is, I guess I wouldn't want to say like taken as seriously because I both think we don't know as terms of the world that it's not. Yeah. But do you think, you know, young women and girls are really enjoying the game and getting into it more and more? Do you see that? I mean, you're on the front line more than anybody else, I think. Yeah,
I think like so when I started playing, I played boys hockey. And that was just because I had an older brother. Yeah. And that was the easiest thing to do. And then when I was in Adams, I think it probably would have been 7 or 8, my second year, I switched over to girls. And even then, I think we only had 2 or 3 teams in the city.
Wow.
So it would have been like Nepean, Gloucester, and Canada, I would think, would be like the 3 areas.
It's crazy.
And now you can go, I mean, and then moving through levels too, so like AA, B, and things like that. Varies a little bit from year to year, but now like the Nepean Adam sort of tier can have like 6 or 7 teams because there's so many more girls playing. So it grew while I was still in it. I don't think it was very big when I first started because I didn't hear a lot about it. And there was girls on the boys teams that I would play against. I think I was, other than with the exception of 1 year, I was always the only girl on my team, which didn't bother me. But looking back, you kind of realize that it's really grown in, I'd say, the last 15 years or so now. It's hard to date it to back when I was playing, but it's definitely getting bigger. And then now with the first shift stuff, we actually host girls-only events.
Oh,
so with women's associations, definitely not as much as like every other event would be co-ed. There's no male only, obviously, and very rarely do we have only boys. I don't think I've ever had an event where it's ever only been boys. There's always girls involved. And you can see some of the parents are a little bit hesitant. And like a lot of the girls that are involved in the program and that I've worked with were like, no, I played boys hockey. Like it's not a big deal, especially at that age, because they're all learning.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's skill development. They're not going out there and they're not playing games. They're all kind of doing the same stuff. They're all pretty much at the same level. So at that point, it's not a big deal. There's something to be said about playing boys hockey. I know girls that played a little bit later than I did that get different stuff out of it because we play the game a little bit differently, especially when you get older because there's no body contact, quote unquote, in women's hockey, which I think turns a lot of people away. They're like, oh, well, it's not real. You're like, have you ever watched a women's hockey game?
Yeah.
By no means is there no contact. There's just no big open ice hits like there is in men's hockey.
Yeah. What do you think is the biggest thing about growth, like for the women? Like I look back and I don't know if it was like the Olympics and especially the string of, gold medals the women put together. I don't know if that would probably be maybe on the top of my list if I'm thinking about it, like social media, just like how hockey has kind of engrossed our whole media stream, kind of taken over, like I know there was always Hockey Night in Canada, but now there's like full on broadcasts for like every single hockey event. Like, what do you think like has gotten more women into the game? Is it women kind of getting more like respect and more opportunity when they didn't maybe in the 80s or the 90s because it was maybe stigmatized?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I mean, it's still slowly growing, but it's definitely growing. So like the gold medals would have started when we were pretty young, I guess. I don't think I even remember the first one.
Yeah, it was 98?
I think so. So I would have been 5.
Yeah.
And like
I don't remember that one. I remember 2002 though.
Yeah. That was like the first big one that I really remember watching, and I think it obviously takes time for the game to grow, and to get more girls enrolled. And I think a large part of that is because, like, even when I was young, not a lot of girls played sports. Like, if their parents weren't overly active or they didn't have an overly active family, a lot of them would go either into music or, I mean, I did Girl Guides for a few years, and then sports took over.
Yeah, dance, gymnastics.
So things like that. Not that gymnastics and dance aren't sports, but they're stereotypically where a lot of parents put their young daughters in, right? So, and especially sort of in like the last 15, 20 years, because there wasn't a lot of girls playing sports, parents were like, well, I want her to make friends with girls, right? You want her to be with other young girls her age. So putting her in boys hockey, I mean, maybe that's why I'm so aggressive as an adult. It's not necessarily the answer, but it's probably a contributing factor. But like, again, taught me so much. It's sort of shaped my life now, being an adult, I guess. It feels weird saying that, but I am. So I think that was like a lot of it was like when we were young. So in like the 90s, the early 2000s, it was like, well, do I want her to play sports? Do I want her to, like, quote unquote, go play in the mud with the boys and be rough? And parents think it's going to like turn their girls into, I don't know, tomboys, which to me isn't an issue, but maybe it is to some people. Yeah. And that's fine. It's not easy raising kids and trying to figure out what they want to do at such a young age. But it's definitely growing, like even internationally, like Japan now has a team in the Olympics. Like there's so much more growth, and it takes time because you need to develop them, and then really you won't see them until they're on the international scale. Yeah. Like there's like I have friends that I played hockey with growing up that are playing in women's like leagues, like quote unquote pro leagues over in Sweden, Finland, whatever.
Oh really?
Yeah, and it's obviously not the same opportunity that the guys get. I have friends that play over there as well, and it's very different, but it's still there. There's just not as much exposure.
Well, even in North America, we have 2 women's leagues, the National Women's Hockey League and the Canadian Women's Hockey League. Yeah. And like it's one of my favorite games ever. Was it 2010 or 2014? What was the Marie-Philippe Poulin?
That was 2014.
Yeah, with that's one of the best hockey games
I know
I've ever seen in my life. Like,
I remember sitting in my basement by myself screaming at the TV.
Yeah, like that was like more intense than 2010 for the men's was also very intense.
Well,
but like that game was one of the best. So it's I think people who don't watch it or maybe think it's bad hockey because, like you said earlier, the no body contact or something. It's played a little differently, but
it's still hockey. It's still fast.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, and if people are complaining about price points and stuff for NHL games, like you can
go to a women's game for
$20.
I
don't think we have one in Ottawa.
No, I think they're working on it, but
Montreal has one.
Montreal
and they're
has
also
one.
very good. I remember
They are.
They,
and Hillary Knight's on
yeah,
that
that's what I
team
mean.
now,
I
too.
remember they're signing them last year, and they didn't win. They lost to the
Calgary.
And they had is there a China team too?
There is. Oh yeah, China.
I don't remember what they
Markham
are.
won last year.
Yeah,
Markham beat the Chinese.
I just remember they have Nora Ratu. Ratu? No, Ratty.
I don't know
the
what you're trying
goalie.
to say.
She's like the Finnish goalie, and she's like super small, but she's so good.
I can see her in my head, but
Yeah.
I don't know what her name is.
So it's funny that there is it is a
It's
good
there.
game, and
It's there for sure.
it's more cost effective economically for people to go see if you just want to see a game. Most same with junior hockey and people. I don't know when we're gonna get to the point where
There's no
commercially,
difference.
where to have that as a viable option economically, because I think it's the CWHL doesn't pay their players.
They don't have to. I don't think there's so much that changes. It's hard to keep up with it all.
Yeah.
But that's been the big thing recently between the two leagues. So the national women's and then the Canadian women's. I think one of them just signed some kind of deal within the last year that was to change that. But for the life of me, I can't remember which one it is right now.
I'm not well versed in it, but I know they talk about merging the two leagues as well a lot. And I know a lot of the women. I follow a couple of them on Twitter and stuff, like Hillary Knight and Amanda Kessel, and they're for it.
Yeah.
They seem to be for it. So I'm
More competition, right?
should have done some more prep work for the
It's okay.
podcast.
I should have. I should know, but I have enough stuff in my brain.
Yeah, no kidding. You grew up in the game. I know you know the game more than most guys I know, very in tune with it. Do you find that you get the respect? I see you shaking your head.
No.
That I think you've earned
Thank you.
with your experience. More than I do.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
In certain areas.
You could talk about the history of the game or certain players, whatever. But in terms of
Skills and
coaching and actually the
Playing.
nuances of the game,
Yeah.
you definitely know more than I do.
well, it's because you're a goalie too.
And I was lazy. I didn't want to learn all that.
You don't like skating, so you stay in the nets.
So do you find it difficult, if you're maybe leading a session, or you said you're the manager, the field manager, and you're talking to a group of guys and stuff, do you find that difficult?
Absolutely. I mean, at camp, yes, especially because for those of you that don't know me, I'm 5'3", but I have a very big, loud voice and a very big personality. So once I get comfortable, it's not as bad, and I don't take a lot of crap.
You're feisty.
I'll be polite, but if somebody steps over the line, I will put you in your place, especially at camp, because I'm one of the older ones. And leading the session, just because you're a boy does not mean you're better at hockey than me, right? Which a lot of them, not so much anymore, but there's definitely a few of them that you can kind of get the vibe. They won't openly out and out say it, but you can tell a lot of them are well, whatever. You're a girl. Why do I care what you can do or what you say? I'm gonna do whatever I want anyways. And you're all right, well, good for you. It's not gonna bother me any. But even with kids, I find a lot of them, not a lot of them, that's not fair to say, but there's definitely a handful of them that I can recall that not that they doubt me, but they almost don't believe me when I tell them things, and they're kind of just looking at me and they're like, yeah, okay. And you're like, no, go do what I'm telling you. I'm trying to help you get better. Right? I'm not, and a lot of it's skill stuff. So it's not I'm trying to tell you how to play the boys game because I stopped playing when I was in Adam. Right? There's certain things that I know that I have no idea about because the game's a little bit different. But things like skating and stick handling and shooting, pretty much the same across the game. So it's stuff like that where they kind of they'll brush me off a lot more. Almost some of the older ones will talk back to me, which again, I put them in their place very quickly. And then in those instances, normally the guys that I'm working with are also on my side being hey, shut up. She knows what she's talking about. She's here for a reason.
Is interesting is not the right word to use, but that even at a young age, like young children still brush you off, and that like a guy has to come and confirm it, or be like, hey, no, Sheila knows what she's talking about. You got it. Like that's weird because they shouldn't have
like from that age,
that
right?
mindset already, right? Like you should just, that person's older than me. I got to listen to what they're saying,
right? And that's what you would assume, but. And, like, I don't know what it is. You can't attribute it to, like, the parents, to society, to any one thing.
Yeah.
And it normally only takes kind of, like, one thing. And I'm like, I'm not the kind of person that's going to go on the ice when I'm coaching and go 110% and, like, try and show off and be like, hey, everybody look at me. Like, that's not why I'm there. Unless I need to. Mm-hmm. And then because in the instance where they're not really listening or they think I don't know what I'm talking about, and it puts them in their place. Mm-hmm. So... It's tough, though. Like, some days are very frustrating because I know they don't listen to me or they don't respect me as much, which is almost the more upsetting part.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they don't understand that, like, I have the job because I'm qualified for the job and I'm good at the job. They're just like, oh, you're just another coach, right? And then they'll probably listen to one of the guys if they would say the same thing, probably a lot faster.
Yeah. I mean, so that's like the kids. I know you had a really good opportunity that you told me about, where you gave that presentation to a bunch of Hockey Canada people and stuff like that.
So this year on tour, we kind of got like a briefing about it. So we had a pilot project with the NHL. So right now we're not partnered with them. Right now our only partners are Hockey Canada and Canadian Tire, because we're only in Canada right now. We've done a few like pilot events in North Dakota and Fargo, and then 1 or 2 in Boston as well. Obviously really big hockey markets, trying to see how the program would fit in the States because their associations work a little bit differently than ours do, so it's a little bit different. And their governing boards are a little bit different as well. Mm-hmm. But we had this pilot program in Calgary, and all of the events in the Calgary area, so we had some in Edmonton, some in Red Deer and things like that, the surrounding area, were all kind of quote-unquote pilots. But the one that we had in Calgary, so for us a normal event is 45 families come, they get fit for their gear, and then they go home. And the way that like an actual event is structured is sort of everybody shows up, we'll do registration, they get their jerseys, their bags, they get fit for a few like really small things right off the bat, and then we fit them for a stick, and then we do a presentation, which is pretty much my role as a manager. So we welcome everybody in. That's sort of our big thing about the welcome presentation, is like that's their welcome into hockey, right? So kids, these are going to be your teammates for the next 6 weeks, 7 weeks, if you go on years, hopefully. Parents, you guys are going to be spending time together in the rinks. Like, you guys are going to get something out of this as well. Mm-hmm. Your kids are going to learn so much. They're going to have fun. And then we actually get a kid dressed in front of everybody, which is always really fun because all the kids start to get really excited because they get to see all the gear for the first time for a lot of them. And then it helps the parents know how to put stuff on as well, which is something you encounter a lot. A lot of parents are like, okay, but how do I know how to put it on? And we're like, don't worry. Like, we do a presentation. If you have any questions, like when you're at hockey, the coaches can help. They'll be there. That kind of thing. Once we finish the presentation, we actually do the fittings. So the kids are split up into 4 groups. We have 4 stations. They rotate through. They get fit, quote unquote, well, professionally. Like, we've all been trained how to make sure things fit properly so that the kids are going to be safe when they're on the ice. And then we do checkout and they go home, right? And that's their touch with us on the road. So then in Calgary, when we sort of found out it was going to be a pilot event, they told us, so with the NHL, the NHLPA, and the Flames Association. So we hosted the event at the Saddle Dome, which was really, really cool. And we had a group of 90 families, which in and of itself is a lot. I'm a loud person and I have a loud voice, but that's about 200 people. And because it's at the Saddle Dome, everybody's going to bring grandma, grandpa, their cousins, aunts and uncles, and all their siblings, right? So, and like, I think that was the only presentation I was ever actually nervous for, because we also had 2 or 3 guys from the NHLPA there. We had a lady from the NHL, I believe, and Tom Rennie from Hockey Canada was there as well, because he works out of the Calgary office, and some Flames alumni there as well. So we sort of basically showed them how we run it. So the NHL has a Learn to Play program right now, which the Sens actually run. So it's run out of all of their NHL teams in the cities. But the big difference is that they don't have teams that go and fit, or associations that run the on ice session. So the way that like the Little Sens, for example, works is they get all their gear. I think the price point's a little bit different. I think it's $109 plus tax versus first shift is $199 plus tax. But they basically show up. They kind of like eyeball the kids and fit them. They don't have people that are like trained necessarily. They get all their stuff and then they go on the ice, and then it's just like the local coaching program. So like us, we're not affiliated with an association in the city, so they have no pathway once they're done.
Yeah,
right. They're kind of like, it's like, okay, here's your stuff, see you later.
Yeah,
kind of thing. So like with us, it's okay, here's your next steps, and like every association has a contact that's in touch with the parents regularly about, you know, if you want to sign up, here's where you're going to go. You can go to this website. We can get you started. Like if they have their ice times in October and November, we can get you started in January. We'll put you on a team. We'll get you started playing if they really want to play. A lot of associations will run another 6 weeks on the ice after Christmas, just to sort of let them continue and then hopefully join up again in September.
So you kind of are a third party that tries to marry the person who doesn't know anything about hockey but is interested with the association.
Yeah.
And then they have equipment and everything's good at a good price point. And
yeah.
So you want, I mean, not you personally, but the goal of the program is hopefully one day to have that all as one. So there's not two different programs for, you know, everyone is, they see you, they get fitted, and then they go right into
associations on
and you're working with the NHL and their teams, and it's a lot more cohesive unit.
Yeah, we hope. And I mean, obviously that's because that's the big thing that a lot of kids see, right, is their NHL teams or players and things like that. So that would obviously get us a lot more coverage. Not that we don't have a lot now. Like we have commercials, we have radio stuff, we've got advertisements on like boards, and they do stuff in Canadian Tire stores as well. But that would sort of really like take off for us, I think. So that was really fun. They seemed to really, really like it. They said they had a lot of fun at the event as well. Like a lot of the times you feel like in those kind of events it's just going to be like, okay, everybody get in a line and we're going to go. But we try and make it as fun as we can. So we get like we have our kids in groups. We try and get the coaches involved. So every group has coach leads so that they all stay in one place and nobody takes off. And you try and get them as involved as possible. Get them making friends and making connections before they get on the ice, and then they don't know anybody, right? Because as soon as you kind of put that helmet on, it kind of distances the kids. So while they're sort of there, everybody's learning at the same time. They're pretty much all on the same page. It's definitely a different environment, and one that we're really trying to share and then push. So hopefully the NHL jumps on. Yeah. It would be a fantastic partnership.
So there, you know, you presented to some, you know, Tom Rennie, in charge of Hockey Canada. I don't know if you interacted or not, but so going back to that same question, like, so the kids, you know, you find maybe it's a challenge for you to earn the respect. What's it like dealing with peers in that level, colleagues, and then people, distinguished members of the hockey community? Like, do you find the same challenge? Like, is it a little more open because it's adults and they understand respect?
I think it's definitely it's more open, but there have been times where, like, if we're sort of at an event getting set up, like some of the coaches will walk into the room and they'll normally walk up right to one of the guys when we're doing setup. Unless I'm pretty proactive about it. Like sometimes it's hard to be like watching the door and trying to set stuff up at the same time. And like even if I'm closest to the door, sometimes and I think that's kind of just like a natural thing. Yeah. It's not necessarily a prejudice or like a conscious decision that we make, but it's just sort of how the world works. But in terms of like professionals and like association people, it's not. Yeah. I haven't had any being like, have to write back to Bauer and be like, hey, listen, this guy can't do it again. But like, I haven't run into it, so.
Interesting. What do you think, you know, the sports world in general, but hockey, because that's more where your expertise, what could the NHL do? What could Hockey Canada do to be more inclusive to women and, you know, giving them more opportunities in coaching and player development and management? I mean, Haley Weckenheiser got hired with the Leafs, which is great. I know, well, Cassie Campbell's in the media, one of the only female, at all. And then I know there's the figure skating coach. I can't remember her name.
Oh, I should know her name too, and I don't.
I was just listening
She's
to a podcast with her.
Smaller
on
than
it.
me.
Yeah, but I mean, hockey players really respect her.
Oh, yeah, she's
and
phenomenal.
What she does for their skating.
Oh my God, yeah.
Brian Boyle, actually, I told you to listen to.
You did, and I don't think I did.
31 Thoughts, but you got to go listen to 31 Thoughts.
Okay,
that's a great
I'll do
podcast.
that. I'll do that this week.
Plugging other podcasts.
Yeah.
But you know, those are the only 3 women I can mention that are involved.
Heavily in hockey.
Yeah,
So I know the NBA just actually hired their first female assistant coach, assistant general manager.
Or something, yeah.
Okay. So like that was a big deal. But I think a lot of it is just like it's going to take time, and it seems like the Leafs have kind of been like one of the front runners in making changes, right? Like our GM is like looks like he's 20.
They don't have a dinosaur running it.
Right? So, and I mean, like, they're my team, so I'm going to plug them as much as I can. But I'm more aware of the things that they're doing, right? I don't follow every team and what they're doing. But I think that was, like, a really big move. I remember when it happened, because we were at camp, and, like, all the girls were like, oh, my God, did you see? And, like, we kind of freaked out a little bit. So it's a big deal for a lot of the girls that are, like, involved in the game, involved in coaching and things like that. It's always nice to see.
And you know that it's a big deal because you reading the comments on the story.
I try not to, because
like that's where you know instantly the type of
Society.
shit that women, and especially women in sport, have to deal with.
Well, like what happened when the first female Ballon d'Or, the female soccer player.
Oh, the twerking.
Yeah.
Oh.
And did you read the Players Tribune article that she wrote?
I read some of it.
Okay.
I followed it on Instagram, though.
Yeah, it was basically like, I didn't let it ruin my night. Like, the amount of respect that she had from her peers, which is really what matters in sports, is the respect from your peers, right? And your opponents and things like that, which is nice to hear, because I remember seeing that on Twitter and I like lost my mind. I had to put my phone down. But that's the way things are today. But I think in terms of like the NHL and associations trying to incorporate more women's events, so like I think it was just like the Leafs, so it was Matthews and Marner each paired up with Natalie Spooner and what's her name? She plays for Markham. I should know her name, and I don't. I'm really upset that I don't. But they did like a little mini skills competition, right? So like things like that will get more attention drawn to it, and it was all over social media and things like that. And just like keep partnering with things like that. Like if the Leafs, there's like 4 women's teams in Toronto in the area, so if they can kind of like not necessarily push more, but like offer ticket packages. So like if you buy Leafs tickets, you get tickets to the like one of those games, whatever's closest to you, or stuff like that. It would probably help. I know it's hard to give stuff away for free, but a lot of the times that's the way you have to start if you really want to sort of make a big difference.
Build it.
But it's unfortunately it's very slow. I don't think it's going to happen super quickly. But it's definitely changing. Like even in the last 5-10 years or so, it's changed a lot.
It definitely has. But like, it still amazes me that
people think like they do.
Well, I mean, I talk about that a lot on here because people are obscene. But I mean that like Haley Wickenheiser was the first major hire in the NHL.
Yep.
And not even talking about the people who discredit her and say, oh, she was only a woman, that's the only reason they hired her, or she knows nothing because she's a woman. That like we don't see more of it even in Major Junior or the AHL. Like there's nothing. Like there's no female coaches.
And I think a lot of it is just because, not that a lot of people try and take the path of least resistance, but a lot of women know it's a lot of work to get anywhere, let alone in a male-dominated field. So a lot of, like, you just have to find people that are willing to put the work in, which Haley Wickenheiser has. Obviously, she has her resume and, like, her accomplishments, which still baffles my mind that people question her, that whether she knows what she's doing or not.
Notice the people who are, they're fat guys with goatees, like sitting
who
on
haven't
their
played
couch.
hockey before. Or just play men's league. Not that there's nothing wrong with adult leagues, but, like...
Yeah, sorry, Haley Wickenheiser would kick your ass.
Right? Yeah. Like, whether she's a girl or not, she's gonna She's an athlete. She knows what she's talking about. The game, at least skill-wise, relatively the same. We are women, and we do not build muscle like men do, so obviously we can't skate as fast. It's just science, right? Like, you can't change that, but it's still the same game, right? So I think it will get there eventually. A lot more people have the desire to be the first one, or, you know, like, get their foot in the door and then keep working and not be complacent as soon as they're like, well, I'm in now, so that's good enough. Like, I don't think that's going to satisfy a lot of people anymore. So I think over the next little while, especially because she's in now, right? And she's in with one of the biggest associations in the league.
The biggest NHL team, at least. Yeah.
Right? So with, like, the most media coverage and things like that. So I think that's going to start the ball, hopefully.
Hopefully. Do you have any aspirations to do any of that? Would you try?
I think so. It's not really the path that I'm on right now, but if my life kind of went that way, I would definitely push. I'm not very satisfied with just having my foot in the door and just being there. I'm very competitive. So I think if I sort of took that route, I would want to try and be the best in my field or get as far as I could. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm only 25, so.
Well, hey, that's midway through your 20s now.
I know. It's scary.
I mean, we talk about this sometimes. I haven't heard your answer in a while, so it could have changed. So you have your psychology degree. And now you're just working, like,
all of the jobs.
23 jobs. Like, where do you want to go? Are you still trying to figure it out? Like, what? Because I know you're doing a lot of things with sport, and you're doing your combat, and now this other training thing, and
the stuff at
the
gym,
stuff. So
stuff.
you're obviously active
Yes.
and in sport and appreciate fitness, and but that does that chalk up to a psychology degree? I mean, I don't know. Like, what?
I mean, I definitely still use it. Probably not as much as my parents would like me to. Because we had a nice little chat at dinner being like, so what are you doing with your life? And I was like, Dad, leave me alone. I just want to hang out with dogs and eat. Okay. That was a really unpleasant conversation. But like initially it was like, okay, I'm going to go to grad school. I really want to go for sports psych. And it's definitely something that I still want to do. And initially for me, it was because of like my experience with concussions, right? So I've had 3 or 4 now. And it's initially why I ended up, like, I had to stop playing minor hockey in my last year in grade 12. I got hit playing school hockey. I missed a month of school. And that was pretty much it, right? Like, unfortunately, being a girl, it's not going to pay me millions of dollars, so I have to be smart with my future, right? Because basically my doctor was like, well, you could keep playing, but if you get hit again, it could, quote-unquote, ruin the rest of your life, right? Like, you could really struggle with, like, going to school, functioning daily. Like, I know girls that, like, it's taken them years to recover from concussions and things like that. So that was one of the big, like, reasons that I wanted to get into that kind of area, because I struggled to deal with it for a really, really long time. Like, even though kind of at that stage, I don't want to say I hated hockey, but I resented being there a lot. I wasn't happy. I wasn't having fun anymore. But then my doctor turned around and basically was like, well, you should probably stop playing. And it was like, wait a minute. No, I want to leave on my own terms. I don't really want to be forced out. And yeah, I struggled to deal with it for a long time, because that was who I was.
Yeah.
Up until that point in my life. Like, it was like, hey, there's that girl that plays hockey all the time. And we never see her anywhere because she's always away for hockey. So I didn't really know who I was, right? All my friends were on my hockey teams. So to go from seeing each other 5-6 days a week to not seeing them for like almost a month was really tough. And also like concussion, quote unquote, protocol. I stayed in my bed for a week, which was not fun. Couldn't watch TV, couldn't read.
Oh.
So yeah, like you're pretty much isolated. So there's not a lot you can do. And like, yeah, my parents will come home from work, but I'm also like, I don't want to hang out and talk to you. Please leave me alone. I'm grumpy. And I want to go to hockey, but I can't, right? So that was a really big reason that I wanted to get involved with it. And now the field has grown so much. Like even sort of when I first got really interested in it was probably about 5 years ago. So I've been graduated for a few years. And it's still definitely something that I want to do, but because I've gotten so many of these other opportunities, it's hard to like sort of put all that aside and be like, okay, I'm going to go back to school and stick my head in a textbook for 2 years and sit in a lab and study and research. But there's so many interesting things. And like initially my like be all end all was I wanted to go to McGill because they're a huge facility that works on a lot of sports psych stuff and a lot of concussion stuff. But now Ottawa U, I think, is the top school in the country for concussion research. Even like just in the last 4 or 5 years, I think. I was actually talking to a guy in just outside of Vancouver who is getting his PhD in sports psych right now from it's like an online school in the States.
Oh wow.
But we were kind of talking about it, and he was like, well, like, he's like, you're from Ottawa. He's like, why don't you just go to Ottawa U? And he was like, everybody thinks it's like one of the top schools in the country now, which is really nice. Like, I've kind of been out of school for a few years.
Yeah.
So I'm not super up to date on research, unless I hear something big, and I'll try and go and find it and catch up. But I've been out of it for a few years, so it's hard to try and dive back in and really commit to it. And now there's so many other things that I'm interested in, right? So especially getting involved with group fitness at the gym. There's so much. Like, they do all of their own research. Les Mills, so they're the company that develops all the programs that we teach at the gym. So they do their own research through universities in like London and not Harvard. It doesn't matter. I can't remember. But one of the big Ivy Leagues in the States, they do a lot of research through there. So like, I don't have a background in kinesiology or even in science. So they think that's kind of what's limiting me a lot too. Is like, yeah, I have a psych degree and I know a lot, but a lot of the things that I've learned in like human kinetics and in science have been outside of school, which to a lot of schools, unfortunately, don't count.
Which was ridiculous because it's all arguably better experience
Than reading
just
a
because you don't
textbook
have a
and
degree.
regurgitating.
Yeah,
Right?
that's so like
I know.
how our system is built on that. It's just
I
like,
know.
do you have that piece
Oh,
of paper?
no.
No. Oh, I don't want to talk.
So
to
I'm
you,
not even going to
actually.
talk to you about it.
That's,
Right? Like,
I've always argued that. I argued
Yeah.
that when I tried to go back to university, and I only got a couple credits for communications. I was like, I was in media. I already did radio, and you're telling me like I have to
Yeah.
like start. In
they
year
don't
one?
make it easy.
Because it's all about
I
the
know,
money.
and it's so expensive. And then like, so I remember when we were in high school, you pay like a one-time fee, and you can apply to up to like 3 or 5 schools. If you want to go to grad school, you have to pay for each school that you want to apply to. You have to take tests to get in. You have to pay to have your transcript sent sometimes. Like, you have to write essays, letters of recommendation. Like, there's a lot of work involved. And then it sounds bad because I'm like, well, like, school's going to be a lot of work. You're like, yeah, but if you want more people with better degrees, don't make it so hard. Right?
Yeah.
And like, I shouldn't say that I'm afraid of it, but like, I am a little bit, right? Like, you don't want to spend all that time, all that money, and then just be like, nope, sorry. You're like, okay, well,
Yeah,
now
rejected.
what?
Yeah.
Cool. I'm just going to teach at the gym for the rest of my life. Not that that's something that's not fantastic, and some people were born to do that, but I think I'll fall apart before I make it that far.
Or I mean, if you just taught one thing,
Maybe.
that would probably be.
But that's
fine.
not fun.
That's not.
Why
fun.
wouldn't I teach 3 classes in one day?
I could name a few reasons. Interesting. So figuring it out. So that must
Yeah.
have been a great conversation.
Yeah.
It's weird because I knew.
All of my friends are still figuring it out. So
Well,
that's not true. Some of them already have like master's degrees, and I'm like, I'm so happy for you. But like, I wish I knew like what I wanted to do from like the time I get up in the morning to the time I go to bed. But some days I'm like, I want to do this today, and then other days I'm like, I never want to do that again.
yeah. I mean, a degree is nice and all, but life just gives you so much more experience than a textbook or a lecture
Yeah.
or. I mean, you could do lectures online now.
I know.
Like, they just put them up on YouTube and
Yeah.
just go ahead and go learn a whole
Direct
thing.
everything. What?
Oh.
Am I allowed to say that?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, I signed a piece of paper.
No, it's fine. It's cool.
Everybody
No one
knows
big
about it.
listens. Yeah.
One day, Ryan. One
One
day.
day, like 4 years from now, we're going to get like a letter like, hey, you.
Hey, you. You can't do that.
You did stuff with concussions, though, with Bauer?
Bauer, yes. So NeuroShield. That was a product that
NeuroShield.
they no
Interesting.
longer sell.
No,
No, they did it for a year, and it was a lot of work because they had to buy the rights for it, and I don't know, they didn't really explain it to us. It still exists. It's still a product that exists. People can still buy it. It has not been cleared by the FDA in the States. I don't remember. There was a lot of legal stuff that they told us that I knew at the time, and it is now gone from memory because it's been a year and it's not useful to me anymore. But it's essentially this like really cool, like quote unquote collar that you wear, and it helps decrease the likelihood, I need to say this right because I'll get in big trouble if I don't, and I'll give myself crap if I don't, but a lot of people are like, hey, this is going to stop me from getting concussions. And it's like, well, no, like you can't, no one can guarantee that. Like you can get a concussion falling down the stairs. You can get a concussion walking into a window, right? Like,
my 2 concussions were stupid. Yeah. So I totally know.
Right? So it's trying to decrease the likelihood of smaller injury events that can accumulate into long-term effects.
Like CTE and
yeah,
all that
so
stuff
things
we're
like
talking
that.
about.
So essentially, it's reducing the amount of quote unquote brain slushing that happens when you get hit or when you move, and it's protecting your brain a little bit. So it's kind of like a helmet for your brain instead of a helmet for your head, but it uses your body's like not neurological system, your own physiological system to create that cushion. Mm-hmm. But
it's when you told me about that, it's interesting because in all sports right now, but especially impact sports like hockey and football, concussions are, it's huge, and they're going through their lawsuits, and the NFL settled for an outrageous amount, and
they got lucky.
Because, scientists are finding so much about the brain.
Yeah,
and
how... there's still so much that we don't know.
Oh, I know, yeah, right? But it's like crazy how it all relates, like... Before you just hit your head, you got your bell rung, quote unquote, and you get back out there and go. But now it's
and then 50 years later, you can't function like a normal adult.
Or people like they commit suicide.
Yeah.
Pro wrestling had that big string a couple of years ago where like there was the ones committing suicide, and then there was the guy, I think his name was Chris Benoit, like killed his whole family and like murder suicide.
Oh yeah.
Because of CTE or Aaron Hernandez, the guy who did those kills, apparently had like the worst case of CTE anyone's ever seen or something. Yeah. So it's crazy how much impact on your brain. Small,
basically quote unquote tears. What happens when your brain moves inside your head is tiny little axons and neurons, they actually tear, and then they don't grow back properly. And if they don't get the right kind of, I'm really butchering this because I'm not up to date on my like neuroscience and stuff like that, but essentially is that they don't always grow back, or they don't grow back properly, so they don't function as well, and it takes your brain more effort and more energy to function normally. Like, so for me, if I have a really long day, I'll get a headache by about 4:00, and I get, like, I call it brain fog, because I can't function. Like, I can't do stuff. Like, I'm driving, and I, like, have to have, like, 2 hands on the wheel. I have to be paying attention. I can't really be, like, looking around, which is what most of us do when we drive. Like, I can't multitask. I can't function, and I can't focus on a lot. I, like, basically have to go home and go to bed.
Really, eh?
Yeah.
And that's, like, from the damage you did.
Yeah, and that's been, like, it's been at least 5 years now.
And that was only 2 concussions.
3.
Or 3.
3.
So think of the people who have 9, 10,
Yeah.
11. Everyone's different.
Yeah.
But I think they say, like, once you get your first concussion,
it's like breaking a bone, right? Every time after that's easier.
Yeah.
Because it's already in, like, a, not a dangerous state, but it's more susceptible to further injury.
When you think about what actually happens when you get one, that your brain
swells.
And bounces off your skull.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa.
It's kind of nauseating to think about.
Yeah. And it happens so fast. I remember when I got my first one, like, I went to catch a football in gym class, so not even anything special. And I just fell and hit my head, and I got right up, and I was like, did I catch it? And then passed out. Like,
nice.
Fainted.
Nice.
So probably hit my head again. I don't know.
For sure.
And when I got back up,
that's called second impact syndrome.
Yeah, it felt like I was high. Mm-hmm. Like, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, it's like the world's moving in slow motion.
Yeah. And like, I'm like.
And you like, you'll like kind of go off in a direction, and then you're like, wait, what? Where? Oh no, we're gonna go over here now. And then you're like, wait, what? Why am I here?
Yeah, people had to like drag me in, like help me in, and then it, like, I don't know, it got okay pretty fast. Like I didn't have any like that I remember any post concussion syndrome and stuff. But I mean, there was Corey Crawford who had it and then got vertigo.
He got hit again like last week.
Yeah, I know. And he had vertigo and he was out for the whole season.
Yeah,
Clark
year.
MacArthur who got cleared to come back and then couldn't pass
been.
his physical.
Yeah.
So he's out. Like probably not going to play again.
No,
Who knows?
which is too bad because he was pretty good.
Yeah.
Right. So and like Crosby, like yes, he's amazing. Yes, he's one of the world's best players. But he's had how many concussions now?
I forgot about that until I can't remember if it was a podcast or if I was watching something. I forgot that he got 2 concussions pretty
and he
consecutively.
was out for like
the season. Yeah,
like
I totally forgot about that because he wins the 2 cups and everything's
and he's
great.
Sidney Crosby,
and he's winning things, and you're like, oh yeah, everything's hunky dory. But like there was question that he might not even
come back.
Yeah,
and a lot of it too is that like, especially being like an athlete and like that, like your sport is being like all that you know, is it's hard to think about the future.
Yes.
Like, yeah, these guys are professional athletes, and yes, it's their livelihood right now, but they're gonna have to stop playing pretty soon and survive the rest of their life with families, kids, right? Like, it's tough to think about, and it's why a lot of the guys at least used to not say anything. 'Cause you're like, well, if I say something, they're gonna make me sit.
I could lose my spot. And
Yeah.
I can lose my job, and
Which is how the game was, and they are getting better. They're definitely getting better, and there's going to be mistakes and there's going to be errors, and you can't, like, they're not going to go from screwing it up to being perfect. It's going to take errors, unfortunately, but I hope it continues going in the right direction because.
Do you follow Daniel Carcillo on Twitter?
Yes.
The stuff he's tweeting is like.
So when you remember that video that he put out in the summer?
Yeah.
I couldn't watch it for like 2 weeks because
Really?
it was like obviously like I played sports as like a teenager and growing up, and like his is like his livelihood, but like I sympathize with it a lot because it's all you know, and then to have somebody be like, hey, you can't do that anymore. Yeah. It's kind of like, okay, well, like now what?
Yeah.
Like,
and the stuff he puts out about like the NHL, like knowing
and like trying to cover stuff
yeah.
up.
Well, I love when they play that stupid legal dance where it's like there's no current evidence that playing hockey
because there's not enough studies that have been done because they need to be long term to prove actual effects. So they're not done yet.
It's that bullshit though. It's just like we know, like you can't,
shut up, you're wrong, and everybody knows it.
Just because of the legal and whatever, fine. We have to have these legal things for protection of everything. Okay, fine, but it's just like, why are you lying?
Why you lie?
Yeah, you're like lying.
Yeah, straight up.
You know it, but just because you can get away with it not being a lie because of legal technicalities, and it's like, oh, why do we have to do this stupid song and dance all the time of suing? And I'm just like, be gone with you. I don't want to see you.
Why don't you just shut up, admit you're wrong, and we'll move on?
Well, I mean,
never. But
it would be nice, but the financial implications. But it's so I always find it interesting too. It's like. So I don't know like what exactly they're fighting for, the people with concussions. But so if like the NHL hit information or whatever, that's fine. But like you also got to know that playing an impact sport,
you sign up for it.
Like it's kind of
it comes with the territory.
A release of personal, like you know you could get hurt. Yep. Like why is a concussion any different than breaking your leg and losing your career? Like what about those guys? You can't hold them completely responsible.
Yeah. But there's definitely, like, I think a lot of it is that, like, I lost my train of thought. With stuff like a broken leg or, like, visible injuries, they can do physical tests and be like, okay, you're good to go back. You can lift so much. You can do whatever. You've been doing rehab for 6 weeks. Whereas with a concussion, because they're so personalized, somebody can, like, there's been, like, accusations of people, like, faking their baseline tests. Right, because now I think everybody has to do a baseline test at the beginning of every season as like their base point for concussion protocol.
Oh, interesting.
And I don't think it probably wasn't in the NHL. I think it may have been in like junior and things like that. But there's guys that will like not dumb down their answers, but like try and make it easier. So if they do get hit,
They can come back.
yeah, which is very upsetting. And like,
Sneaky.
I know when you're a kid, it's harder to think, or like a kid, quote unquote. It's hard to think about 10, 20, 40 years down the line, but like you need to live the rest of your life.
I know. I mean, I did it. I mean, my first concussion, I sat out about a week.
Yeah.
Should I have went back? I don't know, but there was no test.
Nobody told me not to.
Yeah, I'm just saying I'm feeling better now. Can I play? And they're
Yeah.
like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And went back, and I was always like that though with injuries, stupidly.
Yeah,
And
most kids are.
now my back hurts, and my groin's
Now
falling
my whole
apart.
body hurts.
Yeah, my groin.
A lot of people at the gym joke, they're like, yeah, you're 25. And I'm like, yeah, but you should see the stuff I put my body through as a child because I wouldn't admit to being hurt.
Yeah. I played with a broken elbow in tryouts.
Okay, that's a little much.
Yeah, so I couldn't lift my glove.
So how did you make the team, Ryan?
I didn't.
Oh, okay.
They cut me.
That makes sense.
It was in
because
Pee Wee.
you
And they
couldn't
cut me
lift your
because they're
arm.
like, this goalie doesn't move his glove.
Because he can't, because his elbow's broken.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
Yeah, so I just would be like,
Do that little kid where you jump at the
yeah,
puck
yeah.
with your
And
chest.
I couldn't lift my arm. I had to walk around like this. I didn't tell anybody it hurt until my mom's like, Ryan, I noticed you're walking around like holding your arm. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, it hurts. So I went for,
It hurts.
yeah.
Because it's broken.
But I was also embarrassed about how I did it.
Do you have any good injury stories?
No, it was a stupid hockey injury.
Okay.
But I was being stupid. So,
Okay.
anyway, so it's
It's a scary topic.
it's funny how kids, I mean,
Don't
yeah.
think twice about it.
But don't you remember being a teenager, like you were invincible? Do you not
Yes and
remember
no.
The shit I used to do with my friends,
Yeah, but
not
that's
even to
also,
what my grandparents
and again,
did.
like counterintuitive to what we were just talking about, but like, you're a boy.
Wow.
But
Wow.
like literally your brain chemistry, boys are like, I don't care, I'm gonna do whatever the hell I want. Girls are like, that might not be a good idea. That might hurt tomorrow. Guys are like, no, let's fucking do it. You're
Yeah.
like, okay.
Don't they say though?
I have an older brother. I understand.
You were in psychology, so like the brain doesn't fully develop.
25.
Yeah. So yeah, girls don't have that sense of like I can't get hurt.
No, we do, but we also have more forethought than boys do.
Well, I didn't back then.
No.
I didn't have any till I was about 18. We were drifting down an old dirt road in the country. Going like 100.
Yeah, of course.
Down these narrow roads.
Yeah.
And one of our buddy's cars lost control, but they were able to pull it through before going in the ditch.
Good.
I remember I was at a wedding with them in September. I was like, man, we could have died.
Right?
Could have watched you guys die.
Yep.
They're like, yeah, man. But back then, you were just like, whoa.
Yeah, you're so jazzed, right? It's just where your brain's
So
at.
many dumb things we did. And
Yep.
But
Everybody does that, though. Like, to some extent, it's not always that kind of stuff, but like, I did a lot of stupid stuff as a kid.
it makes you think, though, guys, I want to go back because you actually had an interesting thing talking about playing in hockey and how it taught you community and leadership and friendship and all that stuff and sticking up for your people
Friends.
who are close to you. And I think it does all that for sure. And I'm such an advocate for kids playing sports and being involved in that, whether it's hockey or not. But then you take a look at what they turn into, like the hockey douchebag.
Ugh, don't get me started.
How does that happen?
I don't know.
You know what I mean? Like,
It's bro culture, man.
how do they get to be bros?
They spend too much time with each other and not enough time with girls or adults.
But like,
And they think everything is acceptable and they can do whatever they do. You know how many times at work I've had to give like the teenage boys like the stink eye and being like, fucking smarten up?
the disrespect I remember from the dressing room was, and I mean, I'll fully admit, like, of course you jump in on certain things.
Yeah.
But there's certain things I would not jump in on. Like, I remember when I went up to the junior team, they had a board of women and all their names, and they all had to get with them. Mm-hmm. And if you go up and
You get a gold star.
yeah, pretty much,
Literally.
to hook up with the girl.
Yeah.
And then one of the people on the list was like
Asserting their masculinity.
one of my friend's sisters. I was like, ooh.
Ooh, that's uncomfortable.
Yeah. So like, how does that like? Is that just a boy thing? Was
Yeah.
like, would girls?
That's like hormones, and that's where
girls
they're
weren't
at.
like that at all. Like there wasn't.
No,
I'm not
we're,
saying to
we're
that
just
extent, obviously.
straight bitchy. Like some of the things that I have heard in dressing rooms and on the ice, I've stopped and been like, wait a minute, what did you say? I mean, not so much when I was younger, but like playing women's beer league, I'm like, I've had grown women call me the C word. And I don't even like saying it.
Oh, damn.
Like, women that could be my mom. And I'm like, hold on a minute. What? Like, for no reason. Like, it's not like I'm out there, like, swinging my stick around and, like, pushing people into the corners. I was standing in front of the net, and I moved her out of the way because the puck was coming.
Well, that's definitely you being see you next Tuesday,
yeah,
for sure.
Right? Like, that was definitely deserving. But, like, I honestly, like, stopped what I was doing, and I put my arms out, and I went, what? And she, like, skated away, and I was like, did no one hear that? Like... Can someone talk to her? That's not okay.
And, like, meanwhile, she's, like, a school principal or
right?
something.
You're like, you could have a daughter. Do you want your daughter talking like that?
Do you remember when, I think it was Kevin Pillar, he got caught saying the homophobic slur
I think so.
through lip reading and stuff, and people, like, lost it. He had to do an apology, and I was like, look, I'm not saying it's acceptable, but the stuff I heard...
Oh, yeah.
Playing a sport.
People are very naive.
Yeah,
Thinking that, like,
oh my God.
You want to think the best in people, but, like, you really can't.
It seems like as soon as you get into those interactions of sport or competition, like, our primal instincts take over.
Well, yeah.
That's
literally why we started playing sports however many years ago.
Is that right?
It's like, I need to be better than you, and this is the only way I can prove it.
So I'm gonna
so that you can mate and have children.
It's true, though. Right? I guess that makes a lot of sense.
I mean, we've just gotten maybe a little more discreet. But, I mean, ultimately.
But, like I said, the stuff people... So, for instance, you would never... I mean, well, some people would. But, like, take a chair and just smash it on someone's head because they said something to you.
Some I'd probably think about it, but, like...
But on hockey, people would... much more likely do that.
Oh, yeah, because you're caught up in the moment. And I'm like, I get it to some degree, but that's not an excuse.
No, it's like, funny
playing a sport doesn't give you an excuse to be a piece of shit.
Yeah, but as soon as you put on the skate blades or the cleats or the shoe, like... Whatever, yeah. Your basic humanity... disappears. It's like whether you're playing sports or you're walking in a Walmart. Like, humanity goes away.
Yeah.
In those situations. It's just funny how that's human nature.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, like, the F word for, like, the homophobic slur, I don't want to say it, but, like, that was one of the lightest things I've ever heard on the ice. Yeah. And that got tossed around a lot.
But that was also, like, sort of around that time. Because I remember, like, people at high school said that all the time.
Yeah, that was...
Like, it was, like,
that was only 8 years ago.
Common term. Like, the R word. I'm like, I lose my mind when people say that.
Yeah, I remember, the first time I said it, I'm like, oh.
And I lost and I was like, what do you, like, you're smarter than that. Use a real word.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
like,
still big.
It still bothers me because there's no reason in today's society. You have so many other words you can say. You don't need to use that word in a derogatory way.
Yeah. I don't disagree. I'm of the word of, like, I get it. Like, language is funny. Where I'm like,
it's very telling about where people are at mentally.
True, but I don't know. I get in a conversation with a girl at work, and we laugh about the things that people complain about on the internet. So I usually find the most craziest things.
Of course.
For instance, a person I saw, it was Thursday, said that you have to ask an animal for consent, and it has to give it to you. So I'm not talking about, like what you do with a dog. You'd stick your hand out and let it sniff you before you just go and pet it, right?
Yeah.
Because it's safety. No,
just common sense.
This woman was insinuating that I had to go, hey, Mr. Flufflesworth, may I pet you?
Shut up.
And then the dog would have to be like, bark, bark, and like let you pet it.
How do you know that means yes?
Yeah, it could be no, but
right?
the animal had to give you consent in order for you to pet it. Not the owner, the animal.
Like, I'm all for the argument of consent. But
I think for an animal and
come on,
human
people.
is a little different. Like, I'm sorry.
If he didn't want you to pet him, he'd probably run away.
Yeah, like, I'm sorry. I love animals, but you can't give them the same rights as humans.
No.
It's just not...
Like, it's
the
how
way
the
it
world
works. Like, humans are superior. And
yes, because we have higher brain function.
Yeah, and of course, like...
literally because we can speak.
Yeah, you can't talk to an animal.
And have them answer back.
Like, yeah, it's okay. Pet me. I like it.
Yeah. Like, if they want you to pet them, they'll walk up to you and they'll look at you. If they don't want you to pet them, they'll move out of the way.
Yeah. And that's... But
the same way with people. If I don't want you to touch me, I'm going to walk away. If you try and do it again, I'm going to punch you in the face.
Well, there should really be a no hands policy unless you're really sure. But that's
You know what I mean, though? Like,
that's so tricky nowadays.
we're not gonna go there.
You don't want to go there?
No,
I
not today.
I go there all the time
I know.
on the podcast.
You try
It's
to,
fun.
and I'm not.
Everyone's always super safe with what they say.
I get real heated real fast.
You can get heated. That's
Well,
what a
remember how we
podcast
were
is
like,
for.
yeah, you played boys sports and all the aggressive sports, so why are you so aggressive as an adult? I wonder why.
You're so feisty.
Don't touch me. I'm not afraid to punch you in the face.
Well, that's a pretty easy one to agree upon, that I can't just come up and be like, touch you.
I had a guy do that to me at Blues Fest once.
Ooh.
Like, from behind, and I, like, turned around and I was like, what the fuck is your problem? And he, like, looked at me and I was like, go away, please. Nobody asked you to be here.
Was that this year?
No, that was like 2 or
shit.
3 years ago.
It's amazing that people still do that, in the club. Like, how many times do you have?
Yeah.
But there's also, like, so no, when I say this, I'm not saying you can just go up and touch a woman. That is not okay. Especially if they do not want it. But sometimes, whether it's a man or a woman, sometimes they do want it, but they're not going to tell you. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In that flirty moment.
But also as an adult, you, like, unless you, like, putting it lightly, don't read social situations well. You can tell when people are uncomfortable.
Oh, for
or whether
sure,
they're
for
totally
sure.
okay with what's going on. Like, I joke around with my guy friends and they'll kind of like give me a push on the shoulder, and I'm fine with that. And I'd tell them if I had a problem with it, and they would know,
It'd
right?
be a lot different if they were doing that or they slapped you on the ass.
Right?
Like, oh,
Like,
Maddie.
yeah, like, you know the boundaries that you're in, and I don't know. I think it's very easy to be a half decent person.
Well, yes,
I
of
don't
course.
think it's hard, but I don't like I can't wrap my brain around the fact that people think stuff like that's okay. But they just think they can do whatever they want and it has no repercussions and it's totally okay. You're like, wait, that's not how the world works. I'm sorry. Who raised you? Which sounds bad,
Kind
but
of,
like,
it is interesting. I always go, a good way to put it, and this doesn't encompass all situations, but like, what would my mother say if she found out I did this?
Right.
Or what would my grandma?
right?
My grandma's pretty cool. But,
But like, she would be upset
yeah.
and disappointed.
Yeah.
That's the big one.
I do know, though, like, I always, especially when all the Me Too stuff came out, I definitely, like, became more nervous and racked my brain. Mm-hmm. Just because I'm so worried about a situation being taken out of context or something. Like, I remember working, when I was working promo and talking to people, I was, my job was to talk to people.
Of course.
Not for me, but on behalf of my job. Mm-hmm. And there was a woman walking by in a mall, and I said, "Excuse me, miss," and she turned around and just gave it to me, being like, why do you think it's okay for you to talk to me? I didn't give you I didn't give you permission.
Okay, so see,
like,
in
that's
those
not
kind
okay.
of
And
situations,
I'm just like, I'm working. Like, I tried to like diffuse
like,
the situation.
in those kind of
but
situations, I'm like, you're out in public. People gonna talk to you. That's how the world works, you know?
yeah, I think we've
like-
lost a lot of
Faith,
like,
hope,
humanity.
happiness.
We've lost a lot of human nuances
Yes.
With conversation, and I mean not just because of these movements, but with our cell phones and with social media and the internet, and a lot of just aspects of being like just a human
being.
Like, people are so taken back that I talk to them in an elevator.
Yeah,
But people my age or relatively around my age,
Yeah.
like, they're like, "What are you doing?
they can't have
Are you
conversations
are
with
you
other
a
people.
psycho?"
They think it's weird, and I'm like, it's another human being that can also speak and has a brain.
Yeah.
And can communicate with you because we are both of the same species. So,
Yeah.
hey, how's it going today, bud?
I'm like, it's kind of nice when someone says, "How are you today?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm good," especially like a stranger, like,
We spend too much time thinking about ourselves and not acknowledging the world around us.
or thinking the word.
And like, I'm guilty of it too. Everybody is.
I mean, there's times when I don't want to talk to people.
true, which is fine, and
But
that's totally okay.
I always try to be polite until someone doesn't deserve
Gives you a
it.
reason not to.
Yeah, I'll be like, "Oh, thank you so much for asking, but not right now."
Yeah, like I've
or,
actually got to
"I'm not
run.
interested."
Like, yeah.
But yeah, so many people like just rude or scowl or think you're a psychopath
Yeah.
for being like,
Or
"How are you
think that
today?"
they can do whatever they want. Like, people, not that people don't know how to be polite anymore, but
Some people don't.
well, no, like, we've lost a lot of it, but a lot of people don't know how to be respectful and like just understand how the world works. And like,
Yeah.
it's upsetting and it's sad.
Yeah, social etiquette.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's really nothing just to talk to someone for a brief period of time if you're like stuck in the elevator.
Yeah.
Or be like,
Or like waiting in line.
yeah, make a joke or, but people just freak out or are closed off. Or,
People automatically assume that you're going to like attack them.
yeah.
Or like you want something from them.
And I
you're
feel,
like, no.
I feel bad that women are put in the position, especially as a guy, that like they do kind of have to be on guard. And
Yep.
I'm totally cognizant of the fact.
Don't park in the far corner of the parking lot.
Yeah,
Park
yeah.
under a street light. Have your keys out when you leave the building.
And like,
Don't look at your phone.
yeah, and that like, if me as a guy come up and talk to you, like,
We're immediately on edge.
you have to be a little bit guarded. And
Yeah.
I'm sad at the fact that
Yeah.
that because I like to think I'm a good person and
Well, you are.
and
but
respect. They don't know that right
Yeah.
away, so it's sad that because and I've seen it and I see it all the time of guys being pushy and aggressive and not taking no or like like trying to keep working it. I'm just
think
like,
that we're just joking when we say
Yeah.
no and that it's a game. You're like, no, I'm being serious. Please go away.
yeah,
Like,
it's
yeah. And we've gone to like expecting the best in people to like immediately expecting the worst.
yeah. I always say like I hate people, but I also love people.
Same.
I love people that work hard, that are ambitious, that are passionate and are going for something and they're out there working and they're not criticizing and they're just, they're just doing their thing and they're trying to just push
Live
for
their
something.
life.
Yeah, and like those are the type of people I want to surround myself with. And they're the people like I'm cheering for and want a good thing. But then you just see a lot of other people. Like one of the things, and I've talked about it before, is I hate when people like just use excuses and dumb shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm tired, and when I'm always trying to.
We talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
Or we're like, hey, do you want to do something? You're like, I haven't slept in 18 hours. Maybe next week.
That's
You're like, okay.
That's definitely a thing. But like where you're just like, so there's a person who texted me for a function, so I'm gonna try to not get this person
Yeah.
realized, but they said they were too tired to do something because they worked from 9 till 2
Excuse me?
and had to get up at 9 a.m. the next
Excuse
day
me?
and do it again.
Shut up.
Yeah.
I am disappointed.
I am too tired to come out for something free.
disappointed. Wow.
Yeah.
I for a second was like, is he talking about me? Have I said that to him before?
But you're a different case than most people because
Well,
you're...
I'll be honest with you too. I'll
You'll
be like,
be honest?
listen, like I think I'm dying.
But
I
I
need to
also
sleep.
truly believe that if it was something very important to me, that
I would
you
be
would
there.
do it.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's the difference. Like someone who always, you don't make excuses. You're like, I'm legit. I've worked 8 of my jobs today
need to sleep.
and have been up since 4 a.m.
I could come and not pay attention to a single thing and maybe die on the way there, but hey, I'd be there.
But that's different than just making excuses to
Yeah.
not show up. And I get the mental health thing. I do more than most people.
But mental health is also putting in the effort for your friends.
Yeah, a lot of people don't do that for their mental health.
Yeah.
And you have to understand one of the biggest things for your mental health is like community, the social interaction. A lot of the time, the depression gets worse or the anxiety
you
because
isolate yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And I understand sometimes it's hard to get out of bed, and that's why I think you're a little bit the same way. Where I've talked to Jenna and a bunch of people like this that it's like you just keep the momentum going.
Yep.
Don't stop because
Did it
once-
yesterday. I'm going to do it
Yeah,
again today
'cause
because I have to.
once you stop, you know.
I'm going to be in bed for 3 days.
Yeah, that's when it's gonna all of a sudden just be like hit the
That's
wall.
like camp ends at the end of the summer. I'm like, I'll see you all in 4 days. Don't talk to me. I haven't stopped in 9 weeks.
Yeah,
But,
so I
Part
get
of it's
that.
mental health, right?
I get that part, and if people want to take a mental health day, it's the chronic excuses. It's the making
It's being lazy, straight up.
and making that fashionable and making that cool.
Yeah.
For me, that's
I
where
needed some
I
me
check
time,
out.
so I'm not gonna go. You're like,
Yeah, that's
okay, it's
where
not
I check
all about
out.
you though.
Oh, like I
Did you
kinda-
just say that's right, Jenna?
no?
Okay, I was like, wow, what did she do to you?
No, I don't.
Don't mind me.
Talk to Jenna.
I know.
Last time at the podcast.
I know. I listened to it. Where was I? I don't think I was home. That was when I was away.
It's so fun when I find out people actually listen.
Of course, I listen.
Maybe.
I don't think I've listened to all of them. They're on my phone. I just forget podcasts exist.
We're gonna make it
sometimes.
big one day. It's so hard.
We gotta. I'll advertise it when I'm on the road.
It's
Leave
so
flyers.
hard to manage this with another job. One, because I'm working with other people's schedules because of the format I wanted to do with it. But I think it's interesting to have like people come on and, you know, one day maybe I'll get like famous people on, but like,
Gee, thanks.
but I have people like, you know, the people who I brought on, like you,
Yeah.
who actually have like interesting lives, who do interesting things. Like we haven't even talked about
The gym.
your
What I do with the
combat
gym.
stuff and all that. Like I don't get the combat thing, but you seem to be super into it,
I am.
which is
Great.
go
cool.
for it, girl. I don't know if I would ever do it or could ever do it.
You could.
I don't know. Like it's the same thing with like spin. My idea of fitness is like I don't want it to be this big entertainment show.
But it makes it easier sometimes. It's not entertainment.
But you know, like the choreography and the program. Like I don't know. I haven't wrapped my head around it yet.
Okay. It's because you haven't been to one of my classes.
Oh, I should go.
Yeah, it's okay. You don't have to. It's not for everybody, and I know it's not for
Yeah.
everybody, and like I'm okay with that. And like I joke around with my friends, but like I don't ever push people. I know.
What
it's
is it
not for
like?
everybody.
Explain it.
So the program that I teach is called Body Combat. It is a Les Mills program. So they are a company out of New Zealand. They have been developing and making fitness programs for over 50 years. And then initially started in New Zealand. Now they are, I think, the leading fitness programmer worldwide. So they have programs running all over the world, all continents, pretty much, not almost all countries, but in like a lot of different places. So yeah, I teach body combat. So it's mixed martial arts based.
That's going to end up on the podcast, by the way.
Oh, sorry. I fidget when I talk about things. I don't even realize that I'm doing it. So if you hear banging, it's all me.
She's playing with her phone.
Yeah, I fidget. It's not my fault. So mixed martial arts, right? So we cover things boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, karate, taekwondo, all kinds of stuff. And typically it's an hour workout. So you'll have a warm up, which is like 6 to 10 minutes long, depending on what release it is. And release is just like the numbers so that they can keep track. We release quarterly, so every 3 months we put out new music and new choreography, which we have to learn and be able to do it all. And it's super fun and it's super challenging, but that's why I'm in good shape. At least that's what I tell myself.
Are you in good shape now?
I should be. Some days I don't feel like I am, and that's
Because it's crazy. You're on the go all the time.
yeah. And the only reason I don't feel like I'm in good shape is because I'm on the go all the time.
You haven't
so
had the
I'm-
time to like
mentally,
recover.
I'm very tired. It's not that I can't do things, but I don't have a lot of energy.
Yeah.
I don't eat as well as I should. But I know that, and I've accepted it, and I'm
Do you have
okay.
like
with
a
it.
rock hard six pack yet?
Underneath the nice big layer of fat, sure do. I'm gonna be nice and warm this winter.
So the combat though, it's like you're doing it
Choreographed to
yourself.
music.
Yeah,
It's
and you're doing
cardio.
it yourself though,
Yeah.
right? You're not actually
Not hitting anything.
sparring or
No.
anything like that.
Hopefully, you're not hitting anything.
Interesting.
It happens.
And what
sometimes.
made you like what? How'd you fall for this?
So back when I had to stop playing hockey, so my mom's been a member at Good Life for probably like 15 years now. And then when I started university, she started dragging me to like the gym at College Square, which was where she was going for one of these classes, which was actually called Skip Circuit at the time. And it's basically like interval training. So you'll skip or do cardio for a minute, then you'll do a weight station for a minute, and you just rotate through all of your main muscle groups, which was really great. The instructor was a lot of fun. And she used to teach, she still kind of does teach combat, but not as much. But we ended up going to one of her combat classes. And like it was fun. And then sort of kind of tried to add it into my schedule a little bit more because it's a lot of fun and I like challenging things. Like I get really bored with workouts really easily unless I'm challenged or unless I'm trying something new. So this sort of kind of kept me coming back. And then she started to like travel a lot more for work. And then she started getting like her classes subbed out. And then that's when Gavin sort of jumped in and he was subbing her classes, who I'm actually now very good friends with. He was my mentor when I started, when I went through training to be an instructor. And we get along really well. He's been like a great coach. And he I remember probably about a year and a half ago now was like, hey, we need more combat instructors and we're having quote unquote tryouts to send people for training. Like, you should really think about going, I think you'd be really good at it. So that was kind of it. And it's always even when I was a participant, it was something it's always kind of a little bit different. It's always challenging. But I found it really enjoyable. Like I said, I'm kind of an aggressive person. So this lets me channel the aggression.
Do you like envision people who you want
Some
to?
days. Some days I do.
Oh, jeez.
But like we joke about it, and like a lot of people have told me I have the personality for it, which is like the same thing with coaching and things like that. I have a very big personality, which I've been told is a lot sometimes, but hey, that's okay. I'm not friends with those people anymore for a reason.
Because I only see you once every like 8 months.
So you get a break from me after one day. It's fine. And I just kind of fell in love with it. It's something that I really enjoy, and it's allowed me to meet a lot of new people. I've become a better coach because of it. Like I've become a better coach on the ice, and in other aspects, and it's a lot of fun, and it keeps me going to the gym.
It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun.
So you do that, and then you like work out on your own.
Yeah, and I also coach team training at the gym as well, because Gavin is the head coach and was like, "Hey, listen, here's your contract. Sign it, please." And I was like, "Okay."
Interesting.
When do you want me to work?
Does it do you just get paid a flat rate, or like the amount of people who like come in?
No, we get paid per hour, which is nice.
Okay, so like if you have 500 people, or you have
Would be
50
scary.
people.
Yeah, it's more along the lines of like 20 versus like 5, but sure.
Okay, so you don't need
Those
to like
numbers are a
plug
lot.
to get like a whole bunch of people in.
Apparently they used to do that, but they don't anymore, which is very nice of them. We get
It'd
paid
be fun. Why
regardless.
wouldn't you want like 500 people?
Well, it would be fun, but it's also a lot of pressure.
Nah.
A lot of people to pay attention to. I gotta like watch what's going on while I'm coaching and I'm exercising at the same time.
Oh, do you have to like fix people's form and stuff? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I don't just like
Oh.
close my eyes and be like, okay, keep
Well,
going.
I thought you just like you follow me, and if you're not doing it right, like sucks to be you.
No,
Like,
I coach for an hour and like I talk through it. I mean, whether people listen or not is a different story.
well, I feel if you're paying for it, you probably have more of a
You would think.
active base.
You would think. There are some people that have been doing it for years, and you're like, no, your other left. No, your other left.
Not my right.
Well, that's the thing is like, I don't really know my rights and my lefts anymore because when I'm on stage, my right is actually left. So when I'm like, hey, everybody go left, I'm pointing right now for me, but I am everyone's mirror. So now when I'm on the ice, and I'm like, your right foot, and I have to like stop and like
Left foot.
think about
right
it.
foot.
Yeah.
I still have to go right, left, and I put the L out. I'm like left.
How old are you?
26.
Come on, Ryan.
No, sometimes just like I just listen. We went almost an hour and a half.
Is that all?
That's all. We could probably keep going.
Oh, we could.
But
Because
also-
we only see each other twice a
Yeah,
day.
I really have to pee though.
Of
so.
course you do.
So thank you for coming on. Is there
Thank-
anything you'd like to plug? Oh, I give everyone an opportunity to plug something. Sign up for First Shift because it's
the
so
first
much
shift.
fun.
So basically, I'll give you the little spiel. So basically, the first shift is for kids between the ages of 6 and 10 that have never been enrolled in a minor hockey association before to come out, try the sport. We're going to get you fit head to toe with brand new Bauer hockey gear. You're going to get skates, a helmet, a stick, and you get to keep it. By the time you're done, you're going to get 6 on-ice sessions that are developed and practiced through Hockey Canada. So the coaches don't really figure it out on their own. We give them programs to run on the ice. And then you essentially get to join minor hockey at a discounted rate. Come join Good Life. It's great.
See your smiling face.
I teach Tuesday mornings at 6:45
It's disgusting.
at Queensview. And Thursdays right now at 9:30 a.m. at Eagleson out in Canada and 7 p.m. at Queensview for 45 minutes only.
I'm thinking about getting a membership at Queensview.
At Queensview? Don't go to Queensview.
Why? Is it really busy?
No, it's just older people.
Yeah, then they won't touch the equipment I need.
Yeah, they will. It's old people and juice monkeys.
What's the best one to go to then?
Eagleson.
That's far for
I
a
know,
workout.
but I live there. Literally, you can get a cot with me and Jen. You know Jen. She was at my house. She's the one from Carlton Place.
Oh, yeah.
She basically runs the gym.
Really? Yeah.
She's not the manager, but she should be. She pretty much does everything and keeps the gym running.
Interesting.
Anyways.
Where can people follow you? Because you have a great Instagram when you're traveling. And
I?
you're leaving in 2 weeks.
I'm leaving in 2 weeks, but I'm staying in Ontario, so it's not going to be as exciting. What is my Instagram? I know it's Mads, but I don't. I think it's Mads 18_. It's real old, and I don't know what it is. Come on, Instagram. Yeah, it's Mads. So MADDS 18_, and it's full of nice, fun pictures from all my traveling right now. I'm also on Twitter. I think at the same thing, but my Twitter's
Your
not...
Twitter's much more aggressive.
Is it?
And it has a lot more dogs.
Obviously.
It's just like you complaining or something.
Most of the time, yeah. I can be real passive-aggressive and say whatever I want, and then go back a week later and delete it and realize it.
Excellent. Well,
Pretty much it.
thanks for coming on, bud.
Thanks for having
It's
me,
been,
even though we talked about this 3 months ago and it finally happened.
Like I said, trying to picture and nail you down where you are in the world at that point.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, maybe you shouldn't come on this week.
Nope.
And then you're like, no, I'm in Arizona. I'm like,
What?
Okay.
Okay, maybe next year.
That was, okay, cool.
It was a really last-minute trip. I'm really happy I decided to go. It was lots of fun.
Oh, perfect. All right, thanks, bud.
Bye.
You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.